This is P to the power of 3, also known as Panels. I'm your host, Perry Pettigrew. And with me tonight, we have 4 lovely panelists here to discuss some vital information about education and technology and what we are supposed to do. With me is Linda Lexington, a lovely mom and parent and member of the Parent Council. She's a first-time panelist, but what she lacks in experience, she makes up for with her gusto. I love it! Next, we have Travis Tanner. Nice to see you again, my friend, for the 9th time. I say that, this is our 10th season. He's been here from the very beginning. I'm pretty sure he worked for us, but now he's our social media guru, here to talk about anything and everything related to social media. Glad to have you back. Next, don't be afraid of him, don't be alarmed. He has that face, he's a principal. We have David Donaldson. Good to have you here today, my friend. He's here to tell us about what happens in the trenches of the schools. Pretty excited about that, more on that later. And finally, we have our lovely Hope Hemsway. She's here as a support system to say, what do kids have available to them when they are faced with situations where technology is just beating them down? More on that to come. First, we're here to discuss this question of how technology affects students in school systems and what we as educators and parents can do to help our kids along with this. So, with that in mind, I'm coming to you, Linda. What do you have to say in regards to this vital issue?
Thank you, Perry, for your kind words and inviting me here today. I'm so happy to be on your show, and I'm not as much of a professional as these folks here, so I'm going to be reading my notes off my computer, if that's all right. But the topic of bullying I'm very passionate and very involved in. And believe it or not, Perry, I was actually bullied as a child for a couple of reasons. My maiden name sounded very funny, and I'll even admit that. And the kids in school used to make up sing-song rhymes about me. Also, my family growing up didn't have a lot of money either. My clothes were from Walmart, or Zellers, for those of you who still know what that was. If I was lucky enough to get a brand name item of clothing, it was a hand-me-down from a girl at my church, actually. But even then, I was still a year behind, or 2 of the fads. Now, for you men here today, as a girl growing up, fitting in with the other girls and the importance of a social life is everything to a girl. And unfortunately, the basis of that is most of the time very shallow. I got those "I'm better than you" looks from the popular girls and who could afford everything from the mall and keep up with the fads. Sometimes I tried to go to Walmart and get the knockoff version of the fad, but even that was really obvious. Now, the bullying in my school days, and I'm dating myself now too, but Principal Donaldson, I'm sure you'll know that as well, where it's a more face-to-face issue. And now as a parent, my daughter is now living in a world where bullying is more intense and more invasive than I could have ever imagined. Humiliating photos can be taken and shared so quickly and to an enormous number of people in a matter of seconds, and including people we don't even know based on our sharing settings and that cycle we create with that. Bullies now have many forms of harassing and abusing their victims. Rather than just having to wait at school in the mornings for us to show up, they can find their victims via text, email, Facebook, Messenger, Twitter, Instagram, and even more at any point of the day. Now this is leading to incredibly low self-esteem and major depression and other forms of mental illness, and that's have shown in statistics a very rapidly increasing rate of suicide in teenagers. At my daughter's school, I am actually the head of the parents board, and we meet once a week and take all forms of bullying very seriously. I think it's so important for parents to be aware of the signs that accompany a bullied child and band together. If we're all involved in our children's lives, in our homes, schools, and the internet, we'll have such a higher chance to see if our children are being bullied or even catching our children bullying others, as much as that might hurt. If this is something you're actually really passionate about, please join us on our weekly meetings or join us online on our conversations or resources on Twitter and our blog.
Well, thank you so much for that, Linda. Thank you for sharing that story. really touched my heart and sharing about how you were bullied as a kid because people made fun of your maiden name. And I mean, if you believe it or not, I was made fun of as a kid as well. I just have these memories in my mind of just Puny Perry, and you know what, I can really relate to that. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your concern for your daughter and for other people's children who are just engrossed in this environment where people are just not taking this issue of technology seriously. So thank you so much for that. Next, we're going to come to my friend, Mr. Travis Tanner over here, and he's going to share with us his expertise based on social media in relation to this idea of technology in the classroom and what the role of educators are.
Awesome. Thank you, Perry. It's great to be here as always, and over the years you have aged just like a fine wine.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Now to get back to our discussion here, I think as educators and parents that we really need to model for our children and our students how we use social media. Social media in itself is not a negative thing in any way. I think it's a very powerful way to communicate with people across the world, next door to us, in just a very easy, simple way. But it does come with a lot of dangers and a lot of safety risks, as mentioned by Linda. It can be very invasive. And I think as parents, as educators, we really need to model how to use this powerful thing in a very positive way. So highlighting the risks and dangers and really showing how to safely and effectively use this thing that is not going away anytime soon. So really how bringing up those conversations of how we really effectively and positively use these social media platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, like Snapchat, that are not going to be damaging to our children in any way. So kind of being aware of the fact that there are safety issues and bringing those up and teaching our children how to deal with those as they come, I think is a very important step in moving forward with this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, Travis. You know, it's just been such a privilege listening to you. I really feel like you are a true guru. And I mean, it's been such a privilege to see you grow up over the last 9 years with us. So thank you for that. I feel like your sage advice has really been impactful for me. And just thinking, I think we're coming to you next on this, David, but what you were just talking about there is that idea of just making sure there's that open line of communication, making sure that these kids know that what they're doing isn't inherently wrong, but it's what they choose to do with what they have that makes it right or wrong. And that's such a vital point that we need to be focusing on. So David, coming to you next. Don't look so scared, nothing too stressful, but you are our modern day principal. You are in the trenches, and it just warms my heart to have you here today. And tell us, from your experience going through the system of being an educator and now being in a position for change as a principal, what do you see with your students in this school? What do you see happening? How do you see this thing that is technology affecting them? And what advice do you have for fellow educators and parents that they can do to manage this negative implication and impact that technology brings to students?
Thank you for that, Perry. I like your in the trenches kind of talk. I think it fits my job very well. But I like to think of it as we're traversing the trenches because
hallelujah.
We're working with it all the time. And one of the things we've had to work with through my learning how to teach, my principling, complicated word for that, no idea. But anyway, through my job, one of the things we've had to traverse has been the change in technology. The whole change in technology has happened so fast that a lot of my colleagues are finding it very hard to grasp, and we're all finding it rather challenging, to say the least. I walk into a classroom in my own school, and I walk in and I see kids on their cell phones, kids on their computers, kids on their iPads, and my first instinct is, get off of that, it's not for school use. They're on Facebook, they're on YouTube. You don't even use YouTube anymore. I don't know, I'm of that era. Anyway, but they're on these social media sites and you're going, they're not doing schoolwork. But one thing that my mind has been open to is the fact that these kids actually are doing schoolwork using technology. And I think that's just absolutely incredible. And the power that we can the power that that creates in our classroom is just remarkable. But, of course, with that comes the danger of technology. I've seen firsthand of students being bullied, as Linda was saying before, and it's just something that us as adults and educators in schools are often unaware of. And I think we need policies and things like that that will help us to be more aware, if that's even possible. The Hamilton Wentworth District School Board is, in all honesty, redefining what cyberbullying is every second of every day. That we don't even know how to keep up with that. So I always like to look at it as we're looking at the problem of technology in the classroom. If you want to describe it as a problem, we're looking at it through the curtain. We can't see exactly what's going on. We're stuck behind this curtain. We don't know. So, which brings me back to the root of staff within the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board have a distinct responsibility that has always been there since day one, and that is to model a caring, respectful classroom environment for our students. That definition should never change. It is a very good, broad, open-ended definition of what we as teachers are responsible for. Nonetheless, the lens in which goes over that definition changes very much, and over the last few years has changed a lot. I think we need to adapt to that change and continue on and traverse those trenches.
Thank you so much for that, David. Thank you for those insights. You know, it's as parents and as individuals who have been to school and been in this system, it's quite an epidemic that is happening in today's society with the current students and the current children, where they almost feel it necessary to have these technologies with them. And as much as it is on them as well to make sure they're using it efficiently and effectively, as you said, you know, it's also on the educators to educate themselves about how they can use this technology in educating their students. It's not just a one-sided problem. It's not all on the students. And I think, as you mentioned, you know, it's a problem that educators sometimes only want to push onto the kids without taking any responsibility themselves. So thank you so much for that. So moving on now. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you, Hope. I know you've at the end here and been rather quiet now, but now we come to you to give us a little bit of insight about what these students have in terms of where they can go when they're facing issues that they just don't know how to deal with when it comes to technology and cyberbullying and harassment and this whole circle of issues that can just come at them on a daily basis. So give us some hope.
Thank you, Perry. So I represent Kids Help Phone, and we are Canada's only national 24-hour bilingual anonymous phone counseling service for youth and children. And we recognize that there are many kids, many children, as Linda talked about, as others have, that face this daily, this struggle, and don't really know where to turn. And so our hope and desire is to cultivate conversations. And so there's a couple of resources that we have for children. We have our Always There app that they can have directly on their phones or their tablets. But we also have this new partnership, which we're really excited about, that started in 2018 with an American company called Crisis Text Line. And we are now able to provide 24/7 free texting, which is the first of its kind. And in our research, we've uncovered that 42% of young people would rather write than speak. And 71% said they would be welcome to texting. So we are just taking leadership in this because we just know that this needs to happen. This conversation needs to continue. Kids need to know where to go and what to do. And as educators, there's many tools out there, but specifically with Kids Help Phone, we have tools and resources that educators can go to, parents can go to, that kind of help define these issues. Because as David was saying, that sometimes there's kind of this gap between generations, and it's going so quickly and we don't understand it, but that doesn't give us an excuse at all that we can actually educate ourselves in understanding these issues. But another more practical way too is right on your campuses and at your schools, you can be a teacher sponsor for starting a Kids Help Phone club. And this gives training, and it creates activities where it cultivates emotional health, mental health, and awareness. and it's able to then spread it throughout your school, so that this is a conversation that is open. It's not hidden. It's not something that's kind of below the surface, but it's out in the open, where kids are actually free to talk about these things, both the victim and the bullies. That this isn't something that we're going to be silent about, and it just equips them. And so, yeah, we're really excited about how if educators really grab a hold of this, that students and educators alike will just be able to be free to address these issues right at their core.
Thank you for that, Hope. It's really great to know that there are people out there who really love kids and students so much that they're willing to make available these various resources. I mean, everyone has a phone nowadays, so that free text line I absolutely know will be 100% helpful for students who choose to take that around and knowing that it's available to them. So thank you so much for that. Right now we're going to take a moment, we're going to step back, we're going to decompress, we're going to reassess, and we're going to come back with some closing comments and remarks. So don't go away, we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to P to the power of 3, or we call it Panels, Panels, Panels. I'm Perry Pettigrew, and we are here discussing the vital topic of education and technology and how educators can manage these negative impacts of technology in their class. We've just heard from our panelists. Thank you so much for your insights and your expertises. And now we're going to give our fellow panelists time to comment on what other panelists have said. So with that in mind, pay attention. They got lots to say.
Pira, I'd love to jump in just to start us off. David, I really appreciated what you shared as one who does work in the school and recognizing that there are policies that need to change and things that need to shift. But one thing that I really appreciated was we need to go back to that modeling of respect and value. That doesn't change, whether it's in the playground or it's in the classroom, on the computer, on a phone. That same level of respect and valuing, and that it comes from us. It comes from us modeling it, having these conversations that allow students to recognize that they have an effect on one another and that they can actually be a source of encouragement and respect. So that to me is so vital, and I encourage that even more.
Thank you, Hope, for that. That was really nice, and it really just put a nice emphasis on the tools we provide for our students, which are so vital. I want to comment on something that Travis said earlier, and that's just that technology cannot be a burden in our classrooms. Like, as much as we as teachers, especially of our generation, want to say that, oh, technology is bad, it's only used for bad. No, it's used for so much good. And sometimes we really need to just let teachers understand that. And I think that's the cultural and the generation divide there. But what I really liked what you said, we need to teach students the correct way to use these powerful tools and the responsible way to use these powerful tools. And just think of the things we could accomplish in our classroom if we fully integrate technology correctly and teach students the responsible way to use it. It's like teaching your son or daughter how to plug in a vacuum cleaner. You teach them the correct way by plugging it into the wall and not touching an exposed cord, right? We need to teach students the same with technology. Don't touch exposed electricity. Don't use technology improperly.
David, thanks for that. That metaphor that you used was really powerful, really powerful metaphor for children. And kind of touching on what you said earlier, Linda, and a bit of what you said too, David. I think kind of what we need to do is kind of that modeling for our children, how to use social media. But I think also what you said kind of at the end was that platform that you have on your Twitter, on your blogs. I think as parents and as educators, we really need to step out and be kind of the leaders in using Facebook, using Twitter, using blogs, using Pinterest even, using our Instagram pages for positive ways and kind of bringing out that, all right, bullying happens any which ways, internet, in real life, just kind of using these social media platforms as a way to express that and say, bring those really issues to the forefront and starting that conversation online, because sometimes it just won't happen in face-to-face conversations.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you for that. I guess I'll just address educators in general and the rest of the panel. I just think it's so important for us to all work together. Educators, have a night where all the parents can come and discuss the technologies you're using in the classroom, the different resources, so that we're familiar with it and we can help our children safely use it. And as well as personal technology we're sending with our children to school. If you aren't comfortable with having cell phones in your classroom, just let us know. Like, we all want the best for our children. And I completely agree that technology can positively affect our children's learning. We're seeing it in the classrooms and differentiated learning. I think we just all need to be on the same page and work together to help give our children the best shot at their education, because there are benefits to technology, but without hindering their learning either.
Thank you so much for that, Linda, and all my other panelists, Travis and David and Hope. Thank you so much for your time that you've taken to be here, for sharing your expertises and then commenting on one another. And it's great to see that there is such unity already here just for the four of us. I mean, I don't have too much to say, but I agree with everything that's been said tonight. And I hope our viewers have too. I hope you've learned something. Educators watching, I hope that they can take away something that is said tonight and start applying that in their schools. And even as parents, even if you think you don't have a part to play, you do. I mean, we have Linda right here, and we're so thankful for you. And so you do have a part to play in the students' lives, which are your children's lives. So with that said, thank you so much, and I hope you will join us next time on P to the power of 3, or as we like to say it,
Panels, panels, panels!
I'm Perry Pettigrew. Good night.